What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So the NPD results for March, those are the US sales around video games and hardware and everything, have come out, and you may or may not be surprised by it, but there are a few interesting statistics here for this year that we're going to be seeing, and it seems that the Switch is pretty much going to own and just absolutely dominate 2019, especially in the US, going forward here with their back half of the year, so a lot of stuff there to go over. And Square actually announced their E3 time slot, and it looks like they've got some big things planned, and it's very exciting. We're getting very close to E3, by the way, so exciting times right now. As always, guys, enjoy these videos, make sure to like button and get subscribed. We do this every single weekday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, to keep you up to date on all the video game news. We're going to start actually today with a game that I've been looking forward to, and I haven't really heard much despite trying to get any info out of them that I can, and that's Shakedown Hawaii. We now know when it's coming out, and it's actually coming out pretty soon, in a couple weeks actually, and they put out, of course, a full trailer and a full press release, and it is coming out May 7th. So yeah, in a few weeks it will be out. It's coming out on the Switch, PlayStation 4, the Vita, and the PC for $19.99, and get this, there will also be, that's right, a physical Vita edition. I recommend probably getting that if you're a collector, because they're only doing 4,800 units of them, and they're only $10 more at $30 a piece. So you might want to make sure you're ready to go. They have an alert you can set up on their website so that you'll know when it goes live, because that's going to be, that might be something that actually becomes semi-valuable. The Vita library, I think in general, is going to become valuable with something like that. It's already a miracle that it's coming out on the Vita. Apparently they also have a 3DS version they still say is in the works and coming. But hey, May 7th we can pick up a game that I've been looking forward to after Retro City Rampage on pretty much everything but the Xbox. They didn't mention the Xbox, but PS4, Switch, PC, and the Vita. So exciting stuff there. And continuing the news and some of the fallout around Mortal Kombat 11 and some of their microtransactions that they have in there and just overall grind, it appears that users on Steam are not very happy. There are some performance issues, and when I saw that it was getting hit really hard with negative reviews, I kind of thought that maybe some people weren't happy with some of the content as well. There's a lot of controversies around endings and stuff, but actually checking out some of the reviews, it has a lot to do with other things, namely those microtransactions. People viewing it, playing it, and then realizing that they may have made a mistake of buying into it, although I think the core gameplay is really good. They just need to fine-tune it. It does feel like WB got their hands on it a bit, but Mortal Kombat X had some similar stuff happening there. Although that PC port was not good at all, this one at least works, but it has a 30 frames per second cap in certain areas, and there is a lack of features around what normal PC games like this, big AAA ones, generally will have. That, and it's pointed out that there are the microtransactions, of course, grind, and then even things like Frost, who's a character that you can buy right away, however, can also be unlocked fairly quickly in the story mode. No mention of that anywhere in the DLC section, although they mention other things can be unlocked in things like the crypt. So it's something that user reviews are actually good for, is to point these things out. Not as good when, of course, you're just review bombing something because you're unhappy about something that a company is doing with a game that's released adjacent to it, like how the Borderlands situation went down with Epic Store. But either way, they have a lot of fixes to do, and at least people are being vocal about it in the Steam community, and I've also seen a lot of people with console version stuff also mention these things. Oh, and if you're excited about Call of Duty this year, well, I think we're going to hear about it soonish. I don't know if it'll be at E3. It might even be prior to E3, maybe something in May, for example. Well, there's actually some private events going on for the new Call of Duty where people are playing it. I assume it's the next Modern Warfare, like Modern Warfare 4 maybe, or I guess they could call it something completely different. However, as you're seeing here, there's a tweet from Call of Duty News mentioning that several college football players and Call of Duty partners or influencers, for example, have been posting that they've been going to private play events for the new Call of Duty game, and there were several of these on Instagram and on Twitter, people mentioning these events. So yes, a Call of Duty game obviously is coming out this year, but what is it going to be called? That's the big question. Of course, Infinity Ward is up, and a lot of us are expecting the next Modern Warfare, but will it have a Battle Royale? It doesn't sound like it. It also sounds like it will have a full cinematic story or a campaign totaling hopefully 6 to 8 hours or so, but it's good to see what we believe to be a campaign back in with the multiplayer and everything, of course, that everyone likes a ton. So we'll see what happens here. And then, of course, there are, I know, Switch owners who are wondering if this is finally the year for Call of Duty on the Switch. we'll see. And guys, some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. We're going to start right away with Square Enix, because Square is in an interesting spot. If you remember, last year they did their E3 event that was kind of like a Nintendo Direct, right? It was all pre-done. They just streamed one that was pre-recorded and put together. It moved quickly, but I have to be honest, some of it was kind of boring. I mean, remember their big reveal last year was The Quiet Man, and well, that turned out, you know, how it did. It wasn't good, I'll say that. I checked it out myself, confused the entire time, and I just didn't think it was a great concept. Came out at $15, which, again, for being one of their big focal points at E3, it just didn't work out. But this year seems to be different, because they announced their time slot, as you're seeing here on Twitter. It's going to be June 10th, 6 p.m. Pacific time. And you might say, wait a minute, that sounds kind of familiar. Yes, Monday, generally around that time, is when Sony would be going, because usually Microsoft Sunday, then we have Sony on Monday, and then Nintendo rounds out the big three on Tuesday. Yeah, Square is sliding right into that spot where Sony would normally be, which makes us wonder, what do they have? I mean, I'm sure E3, the people running it were like, wow, okay, yeah, Sony's not here. Who wants to take their spot? And I'm sure Square jumped at the chance, because it is a spot people are used to watching for Sony. And what does that tell you? Well, it tells me, since Kingdom Hearts 3 is out, and they said a certain game is kind of being kept in the background because they want Kingdom Hearts 3 to be out, yeah, I think Final Fantasy VII Remake is going to get the full spotlight here. I think it's ready enough to show. I wonder if it's ready enough to release in 2019. That is the big question. Are they going to be prepared? Because, of course, they know, again, Sony fans will be watching that time because they're already kind of used to it anyway. And Final Fantasy VII Remake is supposed to be first on PlayStation, as we saw in their trailer. And after being shown at the PlayStation Experience in, 2015, we've been pretty much lost at this point for about 4 years, waiting to hear anything else about this project. Everything we've heard has been bad, where we heard that development had to restart, they had to bring in other people. It's been all over the place. So I'm hoping things have changed. I'm hoping it's not episodic, which I think is a terrible idea for that game to be episodic. And I hope it is ready to go for the PlayStation 4 and that it's not strictly a PlayStation 5 or next generation game. I don't think it is, because of course the PS5 is supposed to be fully backwards anyway. So why not just leave it on the PS4 and do a patch for the PS5? Either way, exciting times. Also, they might show up with some other stuff too. You know, I mean, you would assume that maybe the studio behind, of course, Octopath Traveler might show up with their own game as well. Exciting stuff though, because E3 taking that spot, prime time spot, Square at E3, it's a pretty big deal. So I'm hoping they really show up with some games. But at this point, with some of the confidence that we have in Square and some of their mismanagement, it's really hard to say. But here's hoping. Next up, let's talk about the NPD sales results for March. Now, generally, we get these released like 3 weeks or almost 4 weeks sometimes, depending, into the following month. So we're talking about technically last month with sales. It looks like the Switch did pretty well, which might surprise some people, considering the Switch's first half of this year is quiet compared to the systems around it, right? I mean, we're seeing some big games release early on from Capcom and Square for the PS4 and the Xbox One, not necessarily for the Switch, but the Switch's back half of this year is heavily stacked with first-party support. So it's going to be interesting to see how this goes down there, but check this out. The Switch, yes, was the #1 selling console in March by units and sales for dollar amounts. And what's interesting about this situation is Q1 for the Switch in 2019 is better than any other Q1 for either of the other systems, the PS4 or the Xbox One, for the entire generation that they've been sold. Yeah, even like during like peak PS4 time, it's the Switch sold more. The Switch is on cruise control right now, it seems, in the US. And of course, these are supposed to be the slow months for the Switch. And now we hear about a cheaper Switch option possibly being introduced midway through this year in the next few months. It's going to get out of control, and I think we're going to see some pretty crazy sales from the Switch going through 2019. So keep an eye on that, definitely. But I do also want to talk about Sekiro, because Sekiro did very well. We're actually going to show the top 10 here for the games sold in March. We're going to start at the top, Division 2, which shouldn't really surprise anyone. Ubisoft games generally will top the charts in their month when they come out in the US. So the Division 2 there at number 1, which is good to see. Sekiro at number 2. Sekiro is the best-selling opening month for a From Software game, only trailing Dark Souls 3. So it is number 2 technically in that regard. MLB 19 The Show at number 3, Devil May Cry 5 at 4, Smash Bros. Ultimate at 5. That does not actually include the digital sales. At the top, you see a little arrow next to the Division 2, for example. That means it doesn't count the PC digital sales. Red Dead Redemption 2 at 6, NBA 2K19 at 7, Grand Theft Auto 5, which Grand Theft Auto 5 is always in the top 20, and it generally is in the top 10 even. It's crazy. Grand Theft Auto 5 at number 8, Yoshi's Crafted World, which had about, 3 days? Yeah, 3 days on the market there for the MPD results. Actually, 4 days, I believe, because it goes a little bit into April there. At number 9, no digital sales there. And then Call of Duty Black Ops 4, the little arrow means no PC digital sales counted. That rounds out the top 10. Now, you might have noticed no Anthem. That actually fell to number 11, so that's already out of the top 10 and everything. Not surprising. Anthem's kind of fallen off. You don't really hear many people talk about it anymore. And at this point, the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox One are in a weird situation because this is the back end of the generation. And I mean, do we really expect more people to keep buying the PS4 like they used to? The PS4 is going to cross 100 million. Is there really anyone out there left, I guess, for Sony to sell PlayStation 4s to? Well, they're running thin, I think, on people to buy them. And the Xbox One, of course, has been stumbling ever since it launched. So I don't think that's going to take in the MPDs throughout the months. We'll have to wait till the PS5 and the next Xbox come out for them to start topping the charts again, I believe anyway. Because even things like Kingdom Hearts, Resident Evil 2, for example, Sekiro, The Division 2, none of these games were able to help the systems get up there despite the Switch not having any big releases. So that's kind of where we are. Look forward to the PS5 and the Xbox 2 to help those, I guess, systems work back up for the MPD charts. Otherwise, though, the Switch, most analysts are seeing it as pretty much owning 2019. And honestly, looking at this, it shouldn't surprise anyone. Next up, let's talk about Monolith Soft, because they keep getting bigger. They keep growing. They did a bunch of hires. They're up to 200 employees now developing games. And of course, a lot of people know them for Xenoblade Chronicles 2 that's come out pretty recently. People are pretty excited about it. They did Torna. And now it looks like they're working towards some other big projects as they have now opened another studio. They have 5 studios now, Monolith Soft. So they are growing fast, which means they must have some serious projects going on. There are rumors, of course, around something like a Xenoblade Chronicles X that could possibly get ported. There's also a chance they're just working on the next Xenoblade in general, and then who knows what else. I mean, seriously, they could be doing some new IPs. The word is they're also helping with another Zelda game. It seems like they are very, very busy, which is good for Monolith Soft, obviously, because they're very talented, and it's cool to see them work on new projects and opening entire studios to continue working on this stuff. Very, very cool. They actually opened the latest studio in the Osaki district, and that is in Tokyo, and that is their 5th studio. So it's pretty impressive stuff. They definitely have plenty of people to continue working on everything, and we'll see what they have for us. Maybe E3 is where we can see the next project from them, preview something. I don't know. We'll see. It's been a little bit since Chronicles 2, of course, Torna came out, but we'll see if they have anything new for us. I'm hoping they do. But hey, if they're opening studios and stuff and hiring workforce to help with even the next Zelda, well, that's exciting too. And our last bit of news, let's talk about 8K TVs. That's right. I said 8K. We're used to 4K at this point, which, by the way, 4K TVs are so cheap now. You can go out and get one for $300 pretty easily. It might not be the best quality. I think you can get a really good one at this point for $800 on sale. A really good one, actual HDR and everything. That's a whole situation. But if you want to get into 4K, you can get a budget set and it actually works fairly well. TCL makes some pretty good ones, I think. But 8K is coming. I know you might not want to hear that because you're like, what's going to use 8K? Well, apparently the next PS5 at least upscale to it. I'm sure Netflix and Hulu and stuff are also mindful of 8K at this point. But Sony announced their 8K sets, and they're pretty expensive. So check this out. Sony announced 2 different sets. The Z9G, that's going to cost $13,000. Yeah, that's right. That's $13,000. That's for an 85-inch model. And get ready for this one, because you yourself can have a 98-inch version of that TV. And guess how much it is? It is $70,000. Yeah, $70,000. That's right. For a very, very nice luxury car, you could instead hang an almost 100-inch TV that has no support from anything really around it right now on your wall. I'm not really sure who this is for right now, other than just people who wanted to say they have 8K or just have obscene amounts of money to throw around. But if you really want 8K, you could technically go get it for the baseline price of 13 grand. Now, several other companies are, of course, showing off TVs. I believe LG is doing it right now. Samsung's talked about it. And now here's Sony. And this, of course, is working to drive down prices of 4K sets, as we've just talked about. So it's going to be a while before 8K is even relevant for most families. I mean, 4K is just now becoming an option for a lot of people. So 8K is down the road a while. I mean, we're talking, I'm thinking 4 or 5 years before any of us really say, okay, maybe I will upgrade to that 8K set. So if you're still on the fence right now about 4K and you're like, oh, wait for 8K, it could be a little while just on those pricings there. But hey, technically, you can go out and get one. Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to do here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button. Really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about today, whether it's the NPD results from March, and now we're kind of going into the back half of the year where we kind of expect Nintendo to dominate going forward. My question to you is, will either Sony or Microsoft be able to take any other month going through this year in the NPDs, or is it pretty much all Nintendo and their Switch going forward? Also, let me know what you think about Monolith Soft opening their new studio. What do you expect them to be working on? Curious about that as well. And then what is Square showing at E3? Is it finally time to find out more about Final Fantasy VII Remake? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.